This is Matt Hurt at Obsessive Viewer on Twitter.
This is Tiny at Obsessive Tiny on Twitter.
And this is Mike, and you can find me at I am Mike White on Twitter.
And this is ObsessiveViewer.com's The Obsessive Viewer Podcast. Hey, thanks for downloading this episode. Just wanted to let you know that if this is your first time downloading the podcast, this is actually our second episode devoted to 2014 in movies. The first part was released last week, and you can find it in the show notes or wherever you found this episode. In it, we talk about our worst movies of 2014 and some viewing stats and some general stats. This episode is about the best movies of 2014, and it's going to start in progress. So enjoy, and thank you for listening. And now we're going to...
Let's put this stuff behind us.
Yes, let's get to the talk about the good stuff.
Yeah, this right here. This is what I've waited all year to talk about. We're at the halfway mark of the episode. We'll see. Hopefully not. Maybe it'll be even longer. So if you didn't care about the other welcome to the podcast. So what we're going to do really quick is we're kind of just going to go around and name, 1 to 5 honorable mentions before we go back to the round robin, 10 to 1. So I'll go first if that's cool with you guys.
Yep.
Yeah.
Here are my honorable mentions for 2014. And I'll go even descending order, but they don't really count. I didn't number them. One of my honorable mentions is The Theory of Everything. I saw this really late in the game. In fact, I didn't even see it in 2014. I saw it a couple days ago in theaters, and I really, really, really enjoyed it. I've said it to the guys in the pod chat, and I'll say it here officially. Eddie Redmayne is my pick for best actor and deserves it so hard.
Oh, yeah.
This movie, I think, would have been higher. We're actually going to talk about this movie later on. I won't tell you why. Listeners, but I think it played it a little safe at times, and so it didn't make it on my top 10, but it was a really, really enjoyable experience. X-Men Days of Future Past is always on there, or is on honorable mentions now, and I can't tell you exactly why I rated this movie so low. Like, on paper, it's the perfect top 10 movie for me. State-of-the-art special effects, movie had time travel. My 2 favorite X-Men, Rogue and Cyclops, returned to the franchise in cameos. Sorry about the spoiler alert. And McAvoy and Fassbender were amazing, as always. But there's only room for so many superhero movies on my list, and as you'll see, they're there. For me, I think with Days of Future Past, the climax lacked the same emotional punch that First Class had, so I can't help but hold that against it, but still I'm really excited for Age of Apocalypse. My next honorable mention is Neighbors. I'll spoiler alert on this, there's no other comedies on my top 10 list, which I'm kind of surprised and disappointed about, but Neighbors for me was the best comedy of the year because it had Zac Efron's abs. My final honorable mention is Edge of Tomorrow, and I would have loved to have included this movie on my list, but just the ending for me, I couldn't reconcile the ending. I couldn't find a way around that ending. So I have a feeling it's a movie I'll remember. A lot of people were talking about this movie for good reason, and it deserves to be on a lot of people's top 10 list, but I just couldn't put it on mine. So there you go.
Sweet.
Nice. Tiny, how about yours?
I have 8 of them, but I won't go into depth on any of them, really. And they're in no particular order, not really. The first one I'll mention is The Edge of Tomorrow, which is probably my number 11. It just kind of was missing something. The ending was a little iffy. We talked about it. Then Dawn of the Planet of the Apes is another honorable mention. By all rights, it should be in my top 10, but I think I already have so many, spoiler alert, I already have so many big blockbusters in my top 10 that I almost felt bad putting another one in there. But it's absolutely worthy of a top 10 mention. So, I Origins, which we didn't talk about much on the podcast, but a little bit, again, could have been a top 10. It's just such a great idea for a movie, and I love what that filmmaker is doing. I can't remember his name. He also did the movie Another Earth, which has some of the same actors, but definitely check that out. Men, Women, and Children, I thought was a great movie, but it was missing something. I think it was. I really can't put my finger on what it's missing, but really good movie nonetheless. Print the Legend, which is a documentary I talked about in our previous episode. Really fun. Just what a documentary should be. The Lego Movie, had a great time with it. I wanted to put an animated movie somewhere. I wanted to mention one somewhere. I think this is my favorite of the year. I love the comedy in it. Neighbors was really good. I loved it in the theater, but when I watched it again, the jokes just didn't really have staying power. And then lastly, The Theory of Everything, which Mike mentioned. Totally agree with Eddie Redmayne. Right now he's my number one choice for the Oscar for Best Actor. And he I wouldn't say he carried the movie because I think he had really good chemistry with what's her name, Felicity Jones. Yeah, she was. Yeah, she was great. So and I thought it had a great script too. So those are my honorable mentions.
Nice. My honorable mentions in descending order are The Fault in Our Stars, which I thought that it really kind of honored the spirit and the really the heart of the story in a way that was just really, really strong. Like, it was a very strong book to film adaptation. My next one is This Is Where I Leave You, which was my surprise of 2014. This is kind of interesting because I thought that there was just a lot of great chemistry between the actors and all that, but it kind of dipped into some tropes here and there, and like rewatching it just a couple days ago, my opinion of it dropped severely. It was actually my top 10, but then it kind of just dropped from there. But the next one is The One I Love, which I thought was a really honest examination of relationships and the inner workings of relationships, but with such a unique sci-fi twist that didn't become about the sci-fi. It's about the characters and about the relationship, which I thought was really good and well done. Next is They Came Together, which it's David Wayne directing a parody of rom-coms, and it is hysterical. Like, I loved it so much. I watched it a couple times last year. It's hilarious and has that signature kind of David Wayne style kind of wackiness, and it's really fun. And then my last honorable mention is The Grand Budapest Hotel, which was the last movie I watched of 2014. I thought it was really good, a beautiful, beautiful movie.
They always are.
Yeah, and Wes Anderson, it has Wes Anderson's like style and his wit and kind of whimsy, I guess, but it just packages it into just a beautifully shot and almost uncharacteristically accessible on his part.
Yes, thank you.
I guess. And I really liked it.
Nice.
Yeah, those are my honorable mentions. Should we dig into our top 10s?
The big
Sounds
show.
good.
Yes.
Let's do it.
All right.
So we don't change it up. I'll start it off. We'll go with number 10.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually my number 10's Grand Budapest Hotel.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. You said descending. It would then number 11 be Grand Budapest Hotel?
Actually, that might have been... I was going to ask if descending or ascending is what I wanted. Grand Budapest was number 15. So would that have been...
Okay.
That would have been
fine.
descending.
Well, it depends on what you mean. Do you mean by quality or do you mean in number?
Descending by number. And quality, because 11 to 15.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, my number 10 is Grand Budapest Hotel, and you really hit the nail on the head about it being his most accessible. It was kind of his first movie with like a sense of urgency to it.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really, really funny movie. He the way Wes Anderson works is like every scene is kind of like a diorama where every little detail counts. And that's something we've gotten in all of his movies. You know, Moonrise Kingdom was nominated last year or 2 years ago, whenever that came out. But like you said, Matt, I think this is, if you were to tell someone to watch a Wes Anderson movie and it's someone who is not someone who watches and analyzes movies the way we do, I would ask them to watch Grand Budapest Hotel because it's just so fun to watch.
Oh yeah, And it's funny, going back to our worst of list, the character I referenced being introduced midway through Tusk, I wrote in the review that's going to post next week that he feels the character feels like Kevin Smith is trying to pretend that he's Wes Anderson, just in dialogue. But anyway, yeah. Tiny, did you ever get around to seeing Grand Budapest?
Didn't. No.
Okay. Check it out.
Yeah.
Big recommend. Yeah.
Yeah. Tiny, your number 10?
Are we all just going to do? We're just going to go around the table again like that?
Oh yeah. Is that what we're going to do? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay. My number 10 is the documentary Korengal, which is the follow-up to the film, I think it's from 2010, called Restrepo. It's the same documentary crew with the same men at the same base, but it is after the event of, I think he was Corporal Juan Restrepo being killed. It's just great. I cannot recommend enough these two documentaries together. Restrepo is the better of the two, but this still has a place. I think this is such a revolutionary concept because you can typically, the way we're exposed to wars now is we kind of just see little snippets, like a little clip on the news or something like that, and it's very detached, but this cannot be more infused with the actual concept of war, because it's a camera crew literally living with and standing next to soldiers in an actual base who are being shot at. In the first movie they filmed a soldier being killed. That's just so remarkable. And just as a history buff, we tend to, there's that classic line, if we don't learn about history, we're, destined to repeat it. And there's so much history, especially when it comes to war, that we just don't know about, and we don't have quality first-hand accounts of. But this is a first-hand account of what the war in Afghanistan is like. It's about the just trying to fight the Taliban and trying to work with the indigenous people who live there, and just kind of like the general malaise of like a stagnant stalemate war like this. It's so wonderful. I can't recommend. I think everyone should see it. Every American should see this movie. I don't say that about a lot of stuff. So definitely check out Korengal. It's really good.
Nice.
Both movies are on Netflix Instant, by the way.
Right. I saw Korengal on Netflix, and I kind of just saw it, and just the image just kind of struck me, and I looked at it and I was like, oh wow, Restrepo is a follow up to that, and I've been meaning to check it out, but I haven't. Okay. Yeah. That brings it to me, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. My number 10 is X-Men: Days of Future Past. And man, I had such a turbulent time constructing this top 10 list. My number 10 was at various points. It was Gone Girl. It was Fault in Our Stars. And now it's Days of Future Past. And this is the solid 10th one. I rewatched it today, and man, I just love it. I hear you, what you say, Mike, about the emotional impact of the climax. I get that, and I agree, but just the build up to it was just so interesting and so much fun to see Bryan Singer basically pull together this just really, really troubled franchise and all the continuity, and put it together in a way that, and using time travel also.
For the most part.
Yeah.
For the most part. There's still a couple of lingering questions.
Sure. But just the way that he did it, while also leaving off with the kind of promise that, oh, this is the start of something new for this franchise, is just so. It was a breath of fresh air for the X-Men franchise, and for me as a viewer of that. You can read my review. I have it posted on the internet on Obsessive Viewer. But yeah, I just loved that movie, and it held up very well to a second viewing. And I'm looking forward to the Rogue Cut this summer. That's coming out.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
One of my favorite characters.
Right.
In all comic book dumb.
Wow.
Nice.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
Mike,
right,
what's your number 9? Yeah.
Or Tiny, did you see Days of Future Past?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's on my list later.
Oh, okay. Number 9 then. For me, I know Tiny loved this movie. Matt, not so much. Number 9 is Snowpiercer.
Yeah.
And for me, I guess what I would say about it is that it's reminiscent of game-changing sci-fi, a lot like The Matrix. And we see so much dystopia in movies and like young adult movies nowadays that it was cool to see a darker, even bleaker, kind of a new twist on an old kind of story. And I just movies that wow me are kind of the ones that end up on the top 10, and Snowpiercer wowed me a lot.
Nice.
Cool. I intended to revisit this to see how I felt about it, but I just didn't get around to it. I spent hours last night just constructing my blog post and all that, and I had stuff playing in the background. I was like, I could watch Snowpiercer, but I was also like, I want to devote my full attention to it. So, so yeah, I wasn't crazy about it, but good for you. I don't mean to sound like a dismissive dick or anything like that. I'm just
good for you.
Yeah, I'm glad.
Good for you.
I am aware that I'm in the minority of people that saw it, I guess.
Yeah. My number 9 is This Is Where I Leave You. Like Matt said, I loved the chemistry in this movie. I thought the cast was literally perfect. Like, I would not change one single person, which is almost never happens. I especially appreciated the scenes between Jason Bateman and Tina Fey. They were just like a brother and sister who just totally got each other. They just understood each other to a T, and that was really refreshing to see that. And also, I've sang Adam Driver's praises so many times, and I'm so glad to see that he was awesome in this movie. And he was kind of the ridiculously goofy black sheep crazy guy of the family, which is sort of kind of like his character on Girls as well. So not a huge stretch, but still, I loved him in this. I hope this movie gets several Oscar nominations for the actors and maybe the screenwriter as well. It was great.
I don't think it is as warmly received by critics as it is with you guys. Am I wrong there?
I don't think so either. Yeah, I think kind of went kind of forgotten.
Yeah. It spoke to me.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. And to leapfrog off of that, or to whatever, the scene, like, I rewatched it last night, and the scene between Adam Driver and Tina Fey, like, it's just such a nice scene where it's like you spent the whole movie seeing Adam Driver as just the chaotic force in the family, and like he has just this like very just kind of almost nonchalant kind of like moment with his sister, and it really spoke to me. Like, I really liked it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I haven't seen it. It's one of the ones that kind of slipped through the cracks, so it's on the list.
Cool.
Yep.
My number 9 is Gone Girl, which we'll talk about in a couple weeks. But I really, really liked it. I love it as a deconstruction of just a really disturbing relationship, pretty much, and it's a very compelling and intense movie. It's really hard to talk about this movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, and when it came to The Social Network, I really kind of not took for granted, but I kind of didn't get like all of the acclaim for Trent Reznor's score. But here in Gone Girl, I think that it was really effective. Like, there was one sequence in particular that it's the best scene of the movie, and it's just so just crazy. Like, it's sticking with me now. But like I said, it's hard to explain this movie, and we'll talk about it in a couple weeks. But yeah, Gone Girl's my number 9.
Nice.
Good choice. Number 8 for me is Interstellar. When I talked to my wife about this one, she was super shocked because it's number 1 on her list. And if I asked my friend Jake, who I also saw it with on my birthday, by the way, he probably would say it was his favorite movie of the year. And my feelings about it have wavered, like mercurial. I can't land on something. I knew it needed to be on my top 10. I knew it wasn't that high up. There was really a lot about it to love, but a lot to be disappointed about. Maybe not as much as Matt. But it's one I'll remember, but I'm just not sure. So it kind of just stands at 8 with a question mark.
To each their own. Yeah. Yeah. I think we'll talk about it a bit more.
We've already talked about it a lot.
We have. Check out the episode. Check out my review.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's cool.
Yeah.
Tiny, what's your number 8?
My number 8 is Nightcrawler, which was also my biggest surprise of the year. I just didn't see it coming. It just came out of nowhere for me. And we talked about it a little bit on the past episode, but it just, it has such a strong message to it that's just wonderfully and brilliantly interwoven into a great story. It's in the whole movie hinges on an amazing performance from the lead actor, because the lead character is a psychopath. He's crazy and he's disgusting and a terrible person. And so if you don't play that the right way, just the right way, it just throws off the entire movie. And I think this is literally a career-defining performance from Jake Gyllenhaal. I think this is the best I've ever seen him. But not to say that he carried the whole movie, because I think just again that message that's kind of interwoven in the story about how kind of desensitized we are as a society and how we crave this kind of a like a taboo sort of experience. It's really well constructed, and it leaves you kind of feeling how you should, I guess. I don't want to just spoil stuff.
Right.
But it's just a really good movie. If for nothing else, see it for Jake Gyllenhaal's performance, because it's amazing. I'm having trouble deciding between Jake Gyllenhaal in this and Eddie Redmayne and The Theory of Everything for lead actor right now.
Yeah, we kind of had that discussion. Nightcrawler is actually higher on my list, so I was going to say, Tiny, the only thing I would disagree with you is that Nightcrawler should be higher up there. I everything you said is correct. It was fantastic.
Cool.
Nice. My number 8 is Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and man, I was just so blown away by it. On a technical level, it's just immaculate. It's amazing, and just seeing the performances from the motion capture.
Yeah, that they got
actors.
real apes to do all that was just
Yeah. Oh, that's the thing. It looked like it, and seeing the level to which they could emote was so powerful to me. And because the movie is focused on the apes, and that's why I can forgive it being kind of low. Underdeveloped human characters, because it's the Apes movie, and I think it's just such a great progression from Rise of the Planet of the Apes, which everyone was like, oh, look at Andy Serkis being an ape, and look at all this is great. And then this is just like on a whole another level, because it's the apes, and it's multiple actors pouring their hearts into these performances, that it's a very compelling and at times sad movie. And I really liked it.
Yeah, something about it for me was slightly disappointing. And I mentioned this in an earlier podcast. Matt, maybe you could put that in the show notes. I don't remember what it was.
OV090.
There you go. But something about, for a sequel, the stakes felt really low. I have trouble connecting to movies that are kind of really just a stepping stone for the next movie, which is kind of almost unfair for me to say, because I know how much I love Empire Strikes Back. But I have gone back now and said that Star Wars, the first Star Wars, is my favorite Star Wars. So I kind of stand strong with that assessment. That I'll wait to see the next one before I kind of make an assessment on kind of the franchise as a whole. You're absolutely right. Everything about it was great, but something about, I don't know, the stakes were low for me.
I can see that.
Yeah.
So what's your number 7?
My number 7 then is Birdman.
I missed this one.
Me too.
Yeah. I highly recommend it, because it's just a treat for fans of movies and fans of acting and fans of cinematography. So I'll kind of spare you a lot of the details, just because I know you guys are going into it, and it's still fresh in a lot of people's minds. A lot of people haven't seen it. In a recent interview with Entertainment Weekly, Emma Stone said that Alejandro Inarritu, the director, gave the cast a picture of Philippe Petit, the tightrope walker who walked across the Twin Towers in New York, and he said, "This is what we're trying to do." Basically, walk a tightrope, and they totally did it, and that's what's so awesome. The cheat, of course, or the conceit is that it looks like it's filmed all in one take, and if you're looking for it, of course you're going to find the seams, but I promise you won't be looking for it. The performances, the story, all of it is just that good that it doesn't matter if you're trying to look for some of the faults. You really won't find them. Performances are great. Michael Keaton really shined. Emma Stone is as awesome as ever. Zach Galifianakis is unrecognizable. Just a really, really solid movie. Number 7.
Nice. I plan on seeing this one pretty soon.
Cool.
What do you think of the Oscar buzz for Keaton?
Well, one of the thing you always say at Oscar season is any other year and it'd be his. But I mean, it's Eddie Redmayne's to lose, really.
Okay.
Like,
Sure.
I don't even know that Jake Gyllenhaal is getting the kind of buzz he deserves. I don't know how much he's in the conversation now.
Right.
I think it's Eddie Redmayne's pretty much a lock.
Okay. Yeah, I agree.
Wow.
Tiny, is it your turn?
Yes. My number 7 is X-Men: Days of Future Past.
Nice.
I just really echo what Matt said. Especially bringing together the continuity of what basically feels like two different franchises. That was just beyond impressive. I feel like we haven't gotten anything really great from Bryan Singer in a long time, and this was great. So that was good to see. Yep.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Cool.
My number 7 is Nightcrawler. Just Jake Gyllenhaal's intensity. It's really mesmerizing to me, and seeing the way that the story, like, the big thing about the story for me was it's a story about like sociopathy and ambition, and it's just so colorful the way that it plays out, and seeing it juxtaposed with Rene Russo's like newscaster, is it her? Yeah. News producer character was just so interesting to me, because they're both kind of despicable people for different reasons, and they're kind of struggling in a world that, like Tiny said, is just desensitized, and it's a really interesting examination of like our culture's morbid relationship with violence, and how we're kind of just accepting of all of these things that happen. But the thing that I kind of thought about after thinking about this when putting it on my list was what you said in the episode, I think it was episode 81 when we talked about it, but like, what would have happened to Jake Gyllenhaal's career if Prince of Persia took off? Like,
right.
Like that it kind of just blows my mind. I'm so happy that it didn't, because this happened and he was perfect in it. It was just so great. So yeah,
I think he's happy about it too.
I think so too. But yeah, so that's my number 7, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Dan Gilroy has after that, because this was his first his directorial debut.
My number 6 is Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yay.
Nice.
And I feel like what I'm doing with a lot of these is defending why they're not number 1, because if you threw all 10 of these in a bag and shook them up and pulled one out, I'd be okay with just about any of them being my number 1 of the year. Like, if somebody asked and I just had to do one at random, I'd feel strongly about any of them. So it's a little lower because it suffers from not having a great villain, but the strength of Guardians of the Galaxy, despite how many people loved Groot and how much the world loves Chris Pratt all of a sudden, the strength was really the team. Like, especially in the climax, I've never seen a team come together to take down the bad guy in such an effective way as they did in Guardians of the Galaxy. And for that alone, it deserves to be top 10. But also because it's Star Wars meets superheroes. So just a really great, fun movie.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you, a big turd blossom. Yeah.
Agreed.
Tiny?
My number 6 is Snowpiercer, which we talked about earlier, and just again to echo what everyone else has said, it's it at times it felt like I was seeing. I think Mike. I like the way Mike used this line. It felt like I was watching a sci-fi movie for the first time.
Yeah.
That's how effective it was. Even though at a very, very base level, it's derivative because it's a dystopian movie, which we've gotten a lot of lately. It was such a fresh take on it that it felt like a new genre for me, I guess. And I think what a lot of people are just focusing on the story itself and some of the special effects and stuff like that. But I think the script was really well done. I liked the dialogue especially. A lot of there's one scene in particular where Chris Evans his character talked about when they first got on the train and how the caste system was sort of set up and being at the back and stuff like that. It was just a camera just set up on his face, and it was really well done. And I love the dialogue in that scene, as well as the performances. But I don't know. I thought it was a really good movie that had just a lot of great things to say. And I hope it finds a place in the sci-fi pantheon, if you will. So great movie.
You know, it's funny. For some reason, I have no idea why this is, but it seems like every January for me is, oh, I need to watch sci-fi movies this month. Like I have no idea what it is about January, but I do plan on circling back to checking out Snowpiercer again to see if it resonates with me anymore. Like
January is the time. It's cold, and the movie's a cold movie.
Very true.
Yeah.
Nice. So we'll check back with me on that one. I was just underwhelmed when I first saw it. My number 6 is Captain America: The Winter Soldier. It felt so much more to me than just a summer blockbuster, and that's something that I wasn't necessarily expecting. Just the balls on Marvel to do what they did in The Winter Soldier. I mean, it carries with it the weight of an Avengers movie, like huge Avengers movie. And I mean, kind of seems like the general consensus was that the first Captain America movie wasn't that well received. So to just pull this off in the second Captain America movie was just so effective to me. It just hit all the marks for me.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
Hats off to the Russo brothers.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. So Mike, you want to usher us into number 5, our top 5s?
Absolutely. Top 5. Here we go. Matt, you started talking about this one earlier, but my number 5 is actually Gone Girl.
Nice.
And the first sentence in my blurb is "Love in the 2010s," which is really sad. Which is really, really, really sad to think about. And when I finished reading Gone Girl, I thought about like what kind of mind could write a marriage farce like this? What happens to people who write about these kinds of people? Hopefully, very imaginative, and they're not writing life like fiction. So anyway, David Fincher's adaptation was excellent. It probably didn't hurt that he was writing from Gillian Flynn's script. What I loved, I think, most about the movie, aside from the twists and turns, which I thought were effectively done, aside from the quality of the adaptation, I really loved the the performances of the two leads. In particular, I know a lot of people are kind of singing Rosamund Pike's praises, but I really loved Ben Affleck, and I love this kind of point in Ben Affleck's career that we're getting. Kind of everybody talked about The Reconnaissance last year, and I'm not saying Ben Affleck is having anything like that or will have, but I like these serious roles. He's done a lot of effective work behind the camera as of late, and it's a shame that I don't think he's getting a whole lot of notoriety for his work in Gone Girl, but he is what I pictured when I thought of the role of Nick Dunn. And I remember reading an interview about how when David Fincher saw Ben Affleck with Jennifer Lopez and how he would do kind of like a forced half smile, he knew he was his Nick Dunn, and Ben Affleck kind of does that forced half smile in the movie, and I just love it.
Yeah, such a great movie.
It's all right.
Yeah.
No, I thought it was good. It didn't make my honorable mentions or top 10, but it was good.
Okay, nice. Tiny, your number 5?
My number 5 is, I kind of feel a little guilty about it because it never appeared in theaters, but it is HBO's The Normal Heart. I think it absolutely has a place on this list, and I think it deserves to be discussed amongst best movies of 2014. I was absolutely blown away by the movie. It is a true story, which makes it even more incredible, but people tend to forget that the AIDS virus it's an epidemic. I mean, it is an ongoing epidemic that affects the entire world, and we sort of forget that aspect. And when it was first starting, people just didn't care about it. And looking back on it now, even though I had no role in it, I feel guilty. And that's the chord that this movie strikes. And then amongst that, the script, the directing, and the acting was all top notch. It was all just phenomenal. I can't even name a standout. Jim Parsons was really great. I was glad to see him be good in something. Not to say he's not good in The Big Bang Theory, but it's just he's been playing the same character for 20 years, it feels like. So that was nice to see. I really wanted this to be the breakout for Taylor Kitsch, but I don't think it was quite that. I think I mentioned that
It's
when
not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
I'm beginning to think it's not going to happen either.
Texas forever.
God. But the movie is just absolutely phenomenal. I can't say enough good things about it, so everybody check it out.
Nice. Yeah, that's. I've been meaning to check it out ever since you brought it up on the podcast. Yeah. My number 5 is a kind of a. I'm so shocked at the negative critical response to this. It's Men, Women, and Children, and I'm so blown away by the level of negative response that this movie has gotten. I mean, it's like a 31 on Rotten Tomatoes, and it's making like worst of lists for 2014, and I just don't get it. Wow. And I even rewatched it last night, and I really liked it. I mean, sure, there are some on the nose themes, and the cast is really crowded, and it kind of dips into melodrama here and there, but I just thought it was a really, really strong movie despite those faults. And it doesn't really deal with technology anywhere near the level of like Spike Jonze did with Her, which I still love so much. But I still feel like Jason Reitman, I just feel like he delivered just a really sincere and emotionally resonant, for me, in certain spots, movie that it really kind of played up how we communicate today, and how I guess teens communicate today. I don't know any teenagers. Yeah, I really, really like this movie, and it's bothersome to me that it's so widely panned.
Is it possible that Adam Sandler is that poisonous that people hate it because of that?
I kind of wonder if that's the case, and he's not. It's not a. I mean, he's okay in it, but it's kind of. I would love for that to be the reason why.
Yeah, I'm not sure I understand why it's being panned either. Mm-hmm. It was in my honorable mentions. So I thought it was great. I think it's worthy of a top 10. Yeah. So
nice. Yeah, it's in my top 5. I don't know. People are crazy.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to see that one. It is not on my list though. But I'll take your guys' word for it. Maybe I'll check it out.
Nice.
Number 4 for me is Chef Jon Favreau. John. I don't know why I keep calling him Jean Favreau.
You did that
I did that in the summer.
Nice.
Jon Favreau's Chef. And I just love that with all the success that he has, with Elf and 2 Iron Man movies, that he can come back and make this kind of a passion project. People don't really talk about like what is the feel good movie of the year. But if there were still such a thing, it's Chef. It's so feel good that I'm really shocked that it's kind of been overlooked in 2014. I don't think anybody's talking about it at the end of the year. You can tell that Favreau has a passion for the food that he's talking about. I love the family drama that's involved in it. The comedy is on point, and even Sofia Vergara, who I think is like really over the top on Modern Family, is kind of tones it down as Carl's ex-wife. Carl is Jon Favreau's character. And so she gets to be a little less over the top, and that's refreshing. There's really nothing I didn't like about Chef. In fact, my wife and I are going to New Orleans for spring break, specifically because in the movie Chef they go to New Orleans.
Awesome.
I'm so jealous of you, man.
Yeah. Cool.
And Chef didn't make my list anywhere, but man, if my honorable mentions run through the number 15 on my rankings, Chef would be 16, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It was just such, like you said, a feel good movie, and sometimes you need that.
Yeah. How many times did you see it? Once or twice?
Just the once.
Just the once, yeah. Seeing it the second time only made me more sure that it was a number 4.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Tiny, you recently saw that, didn't you?
Yes. Actually, my number 4 is Jon Favreau's Chef.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
Great minds, my friend.
Yeah, great minds. Yeah, it was just so wonderful.
Yeah.
It was just
wonderful is the word, right?
Yeah, Matt used the adjective delightful,
Yeah.
and it's just it's so much fun to watch. It is the culmination of the American dream, right? This guy just has a dream. It's something he loves doing so much. It's his passion. You can even see it when he's just making a little grilled cheese sandwich for his son in the morning, and it's like this whole big production and thing, and he slices. It's just beautiful, and
then he eats most of it because his kid doesn't eat it.
Exactly. And he's a fat guy like me. But that's what he loves doing, and he's not being allowed to do it the way he wants, and he just goes out and does it just on his own. That's just the American dream. It is very feel good, but I don't think the movie needed any more like streaks of drama than it had, because there's some friction between Jon Favreau and his son. But it's nothing earth shattering, but it's pretty typical stuff. I think that was enough. I don't think there needed to be any more drama in it. I think it was just fun the way it was. And I just had such a great time with it. It was so wonderful. I can't say much else about it. Yeah.
There's the scene where they start to make their first Cubano sandwiches, and they're making them for the workers that kind of help them load the stove into the truck.
Mm-hmm.
And his son burns one, and then tries to sell it, and he says, "I don't care. They didn't pay for it."
Right.
And so he takes him outside, and it kind of explains to him why he does what he does. And I don't know. I might be thinking a little too hard that kind of it was a little meta, and he was kind of metaphorically talking about his movie career. I think someone who likes the movie a little less would think that, which is okay because that's good directing, that's good writing. But what I loved is that it really felt like, as a character who loves food, he really meant that. And the movie is just full of those kinds of moments.
Yeah, and I feel like its meta-ness was not distracting. It didn't take me out of the movie at all.
Yeah.
I barely even noticed it until after I watched the movie. I was like, oh yeah, that was kind of meta. But it was appropriately meta. I thought it was a good way to go about doing it. It wasn't heavy-handed at all.
Mm-hmm.
I liked it.
I mean, I disagree. Well, I'm not disagree, but I had a different reaction to the meta-ness. I mean, I didn't mind it at all.
Mm-hmm.
But man, it just kind of really in a less charming movie, I would have found fault in how it was such a clear, to me, response to kind of how it was such a clear allegory for his directing career.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I would have found fault in it, but I mean, I was just so charmed and swept up in the movie that I didn't mind it at all.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
well, good.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Matt,
my number 4 is the Skeleton Twins. I talked about it on episode 87. It really just hit me in just the right spot. It's kind of almost stereotypical, like kind of indie, kind of drama. I mean, two estranged siblings, both in dire points in their lives, kind of reconnect and rediscover how important they are in each other's lives. But I felt like the script was just really well done in terms of delivering exposition, not necessarily exposition, but just fleshing out the characters and their their relationships with other people and themselves. Like, I mean, you kind of get little hints here and there, like, oh, there's something about their. I talked about this in episode 87. I'm sorry, but just like there's stuff like little sprinkles here and there, and then it just kind of builds upon that, and it doesn't spoon feed us any exposition the way certain other movies from certain filmmakers this year do. Interstellar. Completely different movie, but still. But there's no. It's just such a genuine, just really natural progression through the story about two siblings kind of rediscovering the importance they have in each other's lives. Yeah,
I got to see this movie yesterday actually for the first time, and I'm so glad I did. And I feel like if I would have seen it a little earlier, it might have crept its way at least to an honorable mention for me. You're totally right in that you're not force-fed anything. What I liked even more about it is that it's not an easy movie. They don't take a lot of easy liberties with things. And for instance, Luke Wilson's character, the husband, they could have easily. And it would have been easier for the movie had they made him a jerk.
Oh, absolutely.
But they don't, and he is a totally earnest dude who's just a nice guy.
Yeah, nice and kind of vapid, but
yeah,
you love him.
But a good guy, right? Yeah. And I'm so glad they went with that. I think if anything, what would keep this off my list was that the ending felt a little too spot on, a little too convenient for me. And so that was a little bothersome, but other than that, it was really great. The performances, Kristen Wiig I think is always great, but to see Bill Hader to do not over the top, sarcastic and sassy, but still dramatic was great. And the scene with "Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now" was awesome.
Yeah,
yeah. I like that scene too.
I was just underwhelmed by it.
Sure.
I feel like I've seen that movie before. The two troubled siblings, but one of them doesn't think they're troubled. I just feel like I've seen that before. But the performances were just great. Kristen Wiig was awesome, but yeah, like Mike said, Bill Hader was awesome, just playing a kind of like a subtle, like kind of a gay, like bitch who's kind of just mean. Yeah, that was, I had no idea that he had that in him. And I was really impressed with that. And yeah, Luke Wilson, haven't enjoyed him that much in a long time.
Right.
Yeah, it was a good movie. Yeah.
Yeah. When you said you felt like you've seen it before, I kind of thought about that after you told that to us in the pod chat, but because it was funny to me because early in the movie, like all I thought was like, this feels a lot like Little Miss Sunshine, strangely enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it plays with some archetypes that are just very present in that. But yeah, I really liked this movie. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. It was fun.
Yep.
All right, here we go. Top 3. I struggled with my top 3 a lot. I shifted these around. I moved them around. A lot of them were kind of latecomers, but I'm pretty happy with where these ended up. So for me, number 3 was Boyhood, and it was. This is so hard to say, but it was as perfect as a movie can get sometimes.
Wow.
Nice.
And the concept, of course, and if you're listening to this and if you're 2 hours in with us by now, you know what you've heard of Boyhood, and you know that it was shot over 12 years using the same cast, specifically the young boy, Eller Coltrane, who plays Mason. And it's about his boyhood, how he grows up, Richard Linklater kind of checked in with them a couple times a year for 12 years and came up with this movie, which sounds like a cheat. It sounds like a gimmick, but what's so great is that how well the gimmick worked for the movie and how it doesn't rely on the gimmick. It kind of plays off the gimmick. The gimmick, of course, is that it's episodic, but isn't that what Boyhood is all about? And a movie like this does not come around very often that really actually shows you what it's like to grow up. Because so many movies try and they're so dramatic, and there's this major turning point in a life, and there's this major love in your life. But for most people, and that includes the three of us, not a whole lot happens from when you're 5 to 18 or whatever.
Yeah,
right.
It just doesn't, and that's what life is like. That's what Boyhood is like. And you look back, and then you string those together, and you can kind of form some kind of painting, some kind of story, a film. But it's not till after that you kind of look back, and Richard Linklater kind of did that for us with Mason and his Boyhood, and it's just. Chef is the feel-good movie of the year, but Boyhood is kind of the other feel-right movie of the year.
I think this is the movie I wanted to see in place of As Above, So Below.
Oh, really?
I think it was.
Oh, man. Oh, that just bums me out so much.
I might be wrong, but...
That may be right. I think it was more of a I'm kind of tired and I don't want to sit through like a 3-hour movie.
Right.
Man. Yeah, I haven't gotten a chance to see this yet, but based on your recommendation...
It didn't feel like a 3-hour movie at all.
Yeah.
And I know fans of movies that are long say that, but really...
Right. Well, to put it into context, I was I was bored with a 90-minute... I was ready to go after 30 minutes into a 90-minute horror movie.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
That was on my state of mind, but I haven't gotten a chance to see Boyhood yet, but I'm buying it on Blu-ray on Tuesday at your recommendation, Mike.
And I might as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I'm so relieved to hear you talk about it so highly, because obviously I value your opinion. I'm I trust your opinion. And all I keep hearing about Boyhood, and I've been kind of distanced from the reviews and everything, but everyone talks about how it was filmed over 12 years. And I feel like that, like you said, kind of gimmick, it could have been my anticipation going into it is thinking is this technique of filmmaking an excuse to throw accolades at it? And so I'm a little loose. My attitude toward the movie is loosened up by your praise for it.
Gotcha. Good.
So I'm really looking forward to it.
Nicely put.
Thank you.
My number 3 is Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Nice. Could have very easily been number 1. Had to be a top 5 for me. I really like what Matt said about the fact that it was really ballsy, that it felt like a tentpole movie for the entire Marvel universe, but it was just a sequel to the Captain America movie, which I really did not like at all, the first Captain America movie.
Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah. This was just, and also just in the context of other sequels, like the second Thor movie and Iron Man 2 sucked. I mean, they weren't good.
Yeah.
There was little effort put into those movies, but this was a huge effort. I wonder if part of it was just bringing in new writers and a new director and directors with the Russo brothers. Just such a breath of fresh air, even though, I have a ton of stake in this franchise or this whatever universe, whatever you want to call it. It's great that to see that they're actually trying and that they're not just throwing whatever at us and then just kind of cranking out a movie and then putting all their effort into the Avengers movies. Yeah. So that's what was great about it. And also it's just a damn good movie. I mean, it's just unbelievably good. Yeah. You can check our other statements on it throughout the year.
Right. Yeah. OV090 is where you want to go for our review of it at the moment, or in the moment. But I loved it. My number 3 is The Theory of Everything. And I mean, Eddie Redmayne he disappears into the role. It's such an awe-inspiring performance. Just because I wrote a review. It's going to go up. I think it's going to go up closer to Oscar time. But just seeing how Stephen Hawking's condition deteriorates through it, and seeing the progression of Eddie Redmayne's physical performance is just so mind. I don't know. It was just so effective to me. And the amount of work because they didn't film it in chronological order, so he had to kind of manage that while also giving a very kind of a really strong emotional performance too. In my review, I said that he turns throughout it. His performance is he puts the effort of his performance at the parts of it that where the scene dictates that it needs to be. Like he has an emphasis on the physical performance, but in a scene where he has to give an emotional kind of reaction, it's more in his face, and it's just a very layered performance to me. And then, but the reason why I put it at number 3, and I struggled with this so much, like my list was just a wreck until I solidified it here. But I thought that he and Felicity Jones were just, I mean, so many biopics rely on just the star of the movie and just the subject matter, and they take that subject matter and they play it up for the drama for a film version of their lives. And what I loved about The Theory of Everything was that it had the incredibly strong and Oscar baity performance of Eddie Redmayne, but also Felicity Jones had this very subtle and emotional kind of performance and so much chemistry with Eddie Redmayne that it felt so in sync with what I feel like a very good biopic should be. And I really thought that the script did a really good job of sidestepping kind of cliche and it just felt very genuine and really full of heart. Like there were times in the movie, in their story, where they could have played up the drama of a certain event, but it just gets to a more subtle point, like her being, I don't want to give anything away, but there's a moment where she's in the room, she's in like the kitchen reading, and she sees Steven in the chair, and like he's goofing around with the kids. I think he actually makes a Doctor Who reference, but you just see this look on her face, and you see that she's reading books, and it just it tells you so much more than what a normal a kind of more run of the mill movie would have done. It would have been a more bigger production of her being like talking like this very big monologue, but it's all condensed into this very small scene, and it's all in Felicity Jones's performance. And there are little bits and pieces throughout the entire movie like that, and I just loved it. So that's my number 3.
See, I felt like that was almost detrimental to the movie. Like they didn't want to upset the source, and they should have gone into some of the struggles, and that there was not that there was literal infidelity, but that she was, I guess it's too early for spoilers, but anyway,
right.
I think they shied away from a lot of things, and I think the movie played it very safe. It's a really good movie, and it's in my top 14, but it just felt really safe for me.
I think you nailed that, Maddie.
Oh, thank you.
That was really well said. I mean, like, really, I was impressed with it. But yeah, and I agree with a lot of that too. Mm-hmm. I think it was the subtlety of it was well done, because I think you're dealing. I actually watched. I'm sure you're sick of hearing me say this. I watched a documentary called Hawking. That was a documentary narrated by Stephen Hawking about his life, and so I kind of knew. I knew what was going to happen in the movie, and like I knew what to expect. But it was still really refreshing to see it, because you're seeing it through the eyes of two incredibly intelligent people. Because I think Jane Hawking and Stephen, obviously Stephen Hawking is the smartest person in the world, but I think his wife Jane is also very intelligent, and I think it shows throughout the film that throughout their marriage she kind of challenged him as a person and as a scientist especially, and that she kind of made sacrifices to certain parts of her life so that not just so that they could be married, but so that his career could flourish. Mm-hmm. So it seems like a lot of this incredible mathematical information we have from Stephen Hawking, she's partly responsible for it as well. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I totally think it deserves a top 10, top 5 place.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree to disagree, Mike, on your points. I mean, I don't have any really strong counter arguments against it.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty subjective.
Yeah.
But whatever.
Yeah.
My number 2, then, we've talked about this. This is I think our 3rd conversation about it so far. So we can kind of put to bed Nightcrawler.
Oh, nice.
I almost gave Nightcrawler the number 1 spot. Right? So it's the ever so creepy satire of skeevy journalism and success story. I think it was Tiny, talked about how the movie was kind of about Jake Gyllenhaal's aspirations, right? And it was kind of a satire on that. Did somebody say something about that?
It was Matt who said that, actually.
Sociopathy and ambition.
Ambition, yeah. That's so spot on. And played by a lesser talent really could have gone off the rails. But I love that, sociopaths are known specifically for not, like for being difficult to read emotion-wise. And to see someone play that kind of a character with such nuance is really impressive. I saw Nightcrawler the same night I saw St. Vincent, and I imagine St. Vincent might have made this list had I not watched Nightcrawler beforehand. Nightcrawler is the type of movie that affects you for a little while, and this is 2 years in a row where I'm putting a Jake Gyllenhaal movie in my top 10, not giving it the top spot, but over time thinking that it probably will end up being on one of my favorites of all time list. I really, really loved Nightcrawler a lot.
Wow, nice. What was the other one? The other Jake Gyllenhaal movie?
Prisoners from.
Oh yeah, that's right. Nice. Yeah, good. Yeah,
good choice.
Yeah.
Thanks.
My number 2 is Interstellar. And this was my best first viewing of the year. And I was so close to putting it as my number 1 for the year as well. I think part of the reason why I immediately after I saw it, I was like, best movie of the year, top number 1 for me. It's just because the theater experience was so fantastic and awesome. We saw it at the State IMAX Theater. And I was kind of bummed going in because I was looking forward to the movie a lot, not as much as Matt. But we saw it on a Tuesday night, like 8:00. And I was bummed because I was like, dude, it's Tuesday night. We have to go to work in the morning and I have to be at work at 7 a.m. And it's just like, it's a 2.5 hour movie. But once it started rolling, I was like, I don't care anymore. Seeing Matthew McConaughey 90 feet tall in front of me was just amazing. So the experience was really good. So maybe that was just a little bit knee jerk, but still, I thought the movie was just awesome. I would put it in league with the same league as other space epics. I thought it was that good. I loved it. We talked about it a lot already.
I knew that Interstellar was going to come up.
Yeah.
And I have to be honest, I felt like my contribution to the Interstellar episode was a little I don't feel like I got my point quite across.
Yeah, you kind of got ganged up on in your defense.
I did, and I really grew to resent the notion that I just had too high of expectations. I mean, I think that was just blatantly inaccurate from your guys' point of view. Because I know that I had high expectations, but I can manage those expectations, and I have in the past. And Interstellar just did not do it for me. And I knew that this was going to come up, and I started at work. I started writing out notes, and it turned into a blog post pretty much. It was 300 words before I was like, okay, I'm not going to Bogart the entire episode, but. Man, the more I've thought about it, the more indifferent to it I've been. And I keep coming back to the idea that a good science fiction is contemplative. It gives you something to think about the world, about humanity, all that. That's what good science fiction does. And the only thing that I've thought about with Interstellar since seeing it twice in the theater is one. Man, Hans Zimmer's score is so damn good. It's on rotation on my phone, to music I listen to. Parts of the soundtrack are on that. That's on point. But the only other thing I've been thinking about is I didn't like this movie that much. I just really didn't. And it's just, and I have one thing that, I'm nervous to say it, but it's just accurate. I will say that Interstellar is my favorite M. Night Shyamalan movie.
Oh jeez.
So yeah, I'm very curious to see what you guys think about it when, maybe down the line we can talk about it after revisiting it.
Mm-hmm.
But man, I really I've just gotten so tired of of it. I don't know. I don't know.
I think that we don't need to spend too much time on this, but
no.
I think when we say that your expectations were too high, what we're reacting to is not that you disliked the movie. You're entitled to feel however you want about the movie, and I feel the same. You know, over time, my feelings about it have kind of waned a little bit, but this reaction is what we're talking about, right? You're so passionate about how much you dislike it. It's because of how much you were let down.
No, it's not. It's because it was not that good of a movie, honestly.
Right, but you said more words and had more passion than you did about I don't know, any of the other ones on your hated list.
I had a lot to say about a lot of movies that I didn't like. And I don't think that saying so much about a movie is indicative of that. Like, I mean, I wasn't really let down by God's Not Dead. I was just surprised by it, and I wrote a really long blog post about it. It got my ire up because I mean, people that love Interstellar love Interstellar. Like, they really love it. I'm not going to take that away from anyone at all, but I just immediately noticed just problems with it. Like, just problems with it that I feel like when I said that it's my favorite M. Night Shyamalan movie, if you go back and you see it, and you imagine that any other director of Christopher Nolan, I'm not talking about you guys specifically, I'm just saying that someone who just gives, like, the people that are comparing it to 2001, if they go back and they see Interstellar and think and see some of the pieces as if any other filmmaker saw it, I feel like they would have a different reaction. I feel like Christopher Nolan gets a lot of credit for being Christopher Nolan, and in Interstellar, he was Christopher Nolan. And it became, for me, just like, oh, these are his tricks. This isn't good sci-fi. This is just a blockbuster that's trying to be profound but still being a blockbuster. Yeah, I just had such a negative opinion of this movie, and it's grown since then. And like, I saw it twice in the theater. And also, a little anecdote about seeing Theory of Everything. Theory of Everything was playing in the theater right next to it while we were watching Theory of Everything, and I could hear the music and the sound from the movie, and I just felt like there's like some kind of metaphor here for how much I disliked Interstellar.
That was interesting. You said what you said about how it was Christopher Nolan doing his thing, but people thinking it's still profound, and you didn't find the profundity in it. I don't even know if that's a word.
I think it is.
But I did. I thought it was still pretty profound, even.
To each their own.
Yeah.
I felt like it was just really. There was a point I was going to like. Okay, in the episode, just really briefly, in the episode we talked about the opening shot of the documentary footage and all that, and there was a big kerfuffle in the episode about how that was warranted given the context of the movie and everything. But the more I thought about that, like after seeing it, like the more I thought about it, the more I hated myself for not bringing up this point that wasn't the case at all. Like the reason that you guys stated that it was there was because to set up to set up a line of dialogue later in the movie, but that's not the case at all. It's literally there. It exists solely so that Christopher Nolan can call back to it later in the movie in a different context, and it's just solely a like, oh, look how kind of clever I am with this. It's because it adds nothing to the exposition, because the whole first 45 minutes of the movie is exposition, redundant exposition, and you don't need all of that. And that was just there. That's like one little piece of it that just irritated me. Ugh. Yeah. Anyway,
I do feel bad about our episode about it though, because it was kind of unfair.
I will say this: I loved having Fekkes on. Fekkes,
yeah,
because he's a really good friend of ours, and I really loved having him on, and we're going to have him on in later episodes. But I just felt like that I didn't articulate myself quite as well.
Well, and we probably didn't give you. I mean, there was 4 of us, so there were 3 of us Like, I assume this movie would probably be on Fecus's top 10 as well, and it's on mine and Mike's, but it's not even on your honorable mention. So, like, your opinion was just so different than ours. It just kind of worked out that way. And sorry,
How come it wasn't on your worst movies of the year?
Because it wasn't the worst movie I saw. It wasn't the worst movie. It was like I said, it was Nolan being Nolan, and I like Nolan. I just wanted more profound stuff in it, and he tried to make it profound, but he also tried to make it everything else that's made him successful. And that was just a huge detriment to the movie for me. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Well, all right, yeah.
Like I said, we'll check back and see what you guys think after seeing it again. I'll probably borrow Tiny's Blu-ray when he buys it.
So you're number 2, Matt.
So my number 2, somewhat ironically, after I just shit on Interstellar, because number 2, get it? Anyway, Guardians of the Galaxy. And, I loved it. Like I said, it's the most fun I had in the theater, and rewatching it again was just such a delight, and seeing how the actors and everything, I'll single out one scene because we've talked ad nauseum about Guardians of the Galaxy. The scene where the Guardians are sitting around talking about their plan is like that scene and a couple other scenes we've hinted at throughout this episode. Like, it makes me want to make the scene from Nightcrawler at the dinner scene. At the restaurant, like, those two scenes make me think, like, okay, next year I'm going to start putting in like my favorite scenes of the year because they're so much fun. Like, they're so, like, this scene in Guardians of the Galaxy where they're all kind of talking about their plan and everything, and just the snapping back and forth, and it's the perfect display of why these characters work so well together. And it's just the way that it ends with Rocket standing up and being like, now I'm standing up. We're all standing up. Bunch of jackasses. It's just, I love it so much.
Yeah, that was great because it's supposed to be like the comeuppance.
Right.
Great feeling party, like bunch of jackasses.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
And just what's his, Drax says something and then, Peter says, or Star-Lord says, I literally just said that, and he's like, you did? And then he's like, yes, like 2 seconds ago. I was like, oh, I wasn't listening. I wasn't paying attention. I was thinking of something else. Just the way, it's just, it was just such a fun movie. I loved it so much, and I can't wait to see it again, even after less than 24 hours after seeing it.
I have spent a lot of time trying to figure out why I didn't like it more, why I didn't rate it higher. And I just don't know why. I guess for me, it's with comic book characters. There's a half of my enjoyment is out of the familiarity for the characters, and I just have no idea who Guardians of the Galaxy are. And I think that might be why so many people liked it. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's obviously it's in my top 10, and it's really good, but it's not as good as. Are we ready for number 1?
Absolutely.
Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
Nice.
Yeah. I said so early on that this was my number 1, and it hasn't budged. When I think about, like, what are the best superhero movies ever, and of course The Dark Knight is like the gold standard, and what everybody says about The Dark Knight is that it's a crime thriller that just so happens to feature Batman. Well, Winter Soldier is almost just as good as that, and I would absolutely go as far as saying it's better than The Avengers. It's a spy thriller featuring Captain America. When I talked about Guardians of the Galaxy, and the reason I ranked that lower is because of the villain, the exact opposite is the case for Captain America. The titular Winter Soldier is scary, which is exactly what you want for a villain, especially early on. When he's unmasked, he's a little less scary because he's got such a baby face, but early on in the film, I'm actually scared of the Winter Soldier, and just the stakes are so huge, which you guys mentioned. I loved the action set pieces, the fight scenes, the choreography was just brutal, which I thought was so cool. It really, I got into a conversation / argument with a guy from work who said that it would be impossible for, like, they didn't do kung fu in World War II, so why would Captain America know all those fight moves? And the idea was to show the growth of the character, that since then he's been busy learning all these fight moves. And I heard that the fight scenes were influenced by the Raid Redemption, which was a awesome movie, and you really get that feel in Captain America: Winter Soldier. It is probably my favorite Marvel movie, probably my second favorite comic book movie ever. I loved just about everything about the Winter Soldier. It had everything that a lay person would like and everything a fan would like. One of my complaints about the Avengers was its lack of Easter eggs, and the Winter Soldier had buku Easter eggs. So just everything about it from top to bottom was great. 2014, best movie of the year, Captain America: Winter Soldier.
Cool.
Very nice. Very well said.
Thank you.
Yeah. I felt like Hydra was the villain, and Winter Soldier was just an arm of Hydra.
Sure, yeah.
Just an arm.
That was intentional. Or just one of the heads of Hydra. You know.
You could say that, but I think what's so awesome about the Winter Soldier, not only is he in the title, but that he was so effective that I made that misstep, you know?
Yeah. Oh, it's just semantics. I mean, it doesn't have anything to do with the quality of the film. It's just semantics. Right. I was just being a dick, basically.
Well, I mean, you're right. Hydra brings S.H.I.E.L.D. down. That's the whole thing. But when you think of the one villain, he was scary and awesome.
Yeah. Nice.
Probably one of the best defined villains in all of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if not the best.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Nice. So my number one, drumroll please, is Guardians of the Galaxy. It was just so much fun. I mean, I had the second best time at the theater with this movie. The first was Interstellar. Man, it was just so much fun. I totally agree 100% with what Mike said, that the villain was kind of weak. Ronan was a weak villain. But I feel like he was just kind of a set piece to bring the characters together, to bring the team together, the Guardians. And you know, you can still do that character. You can still have that set piece that brings the team together and make it a good character. But it just wasn't the focus of the movie, and so I don't take too much of away from it for that. But that's a fair point. And it kind of sets up the future villain, which Thanos, I assume will culminate in the third Avengers movie, probably.
Infinity Wars Part 1 and 2.
Nice.
Should be. I assume it's him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, just the way that the group came together was just really incredible. And I think by the end of it, there's still it was similar to Avengers in that there's still some friction there. You know, they can work together, but there's still some things that are going to cause rifts between these characters. And I thought that was well done and refreshing. But I was so happy to see James Gunn get a huge blockbuster, because I've been a fan of his for several years. And I think he did as good a job as he did well. He did even better than could have been expected in my book. I was not expecting this much awesomeness from the movie.
No.
So yeah, my number one for 2014, Guardians of the Galaxy.
Nice. Quick anecdote. Walking into work on Thursday, I think it was, the car that parked next to me, the lady in it was listening to what I assume was Awesome Mix Volume 1, or she could have just been listening to Come and Get Your Love just by itself. But like, I heard that, and like the rest of the day was just like me having that stuck in my head and thinking about Guardians of the Galaxy, because
that's a good day.
Oh, absolutely. Oh yeah. And even in my head, it's playing in my head right now. But yeah, just so great. Yeah, I guess it brings it to my number one then. I had such a struggle with defining a number one and defining this list, and I think it kind of came down to being not necessarily underwhelmed with the year overall, but there was no, like, I didn't have like an experience with the movie in 2014 like Mike had with Captain America. nothing really like stood out like, oh my God, this is the best movie of the year. It was all kind of just like, oh, this is a really, really good movie. I really love this movie. The closest I can come to is Guardians of the Galaxy. And the reason why I didn't put it as number one is because it kind of is a little restrained by kind of the Marvel formula, if that makes sense. Not to downplay Marvel's cinematic universe, but they all kind of, a lot of those movies fit a certain formula. And I think Guardians of the Galaxy kind of fell into that a little bit, skillfully, but still. So anyway, without further ado, my number one is Whiplash.
Wow.
Yeah, it, like, okay, so I'm at a loss for how to describe it. Whiplash is just a really, really intense movie. And what's funny about that is that, like, I told a friend, like, oh yeah, this movie about a college student who is a jazz drummer, who's an aspiring jazz drummer, and it's a really intense movie. And they're like, what? And it really is. It's and it's all played through the performances of J.K. Simmons and Miles Teller. Who Miles Teller, I love him. I think that he has a bright future ahead of him, and he's really, really good in this movie. But J.K. Simmons just steals it. I mean, he is, like, you can call his performance intense, but it would be just such a huge understatement, because it's in those intense moments where he is drilling into because he's a conductor at a prestigious music school, and the moments where he's just drilling into just horrifying things into these kids that are trying their best at performing for him. It's the switch between that and to where he's just kind of okay, like he's normal, he's kind of level-headed. It's in those moments that he becomes like absolutely terrifying, and it plays through so beautifully throughout the entire movie, because it's juxtaposed with Miles Teller's character being this kid who is so, he's not he's so consumed by ambition, which is kind of an interesting commonality between this and Nightcrawler. But he's so consumed by ambition that he is willing to just forsake everything in his life, and it's played through so well. Like, he bleeds for his art, both figuratively and literally, and it all comes to a head in such a really, really great final sequence that is just so beautiful, and so I was left kind of blown away by it. And it's something that I'm still collecting my thoughts about and thinking about, and just that final sequence is so, I don't know how else to describe it other than jarring, and such a highly satisfying payoff to a movie that built up to such, I'm at a loss for words. Yeah, I don't know. It just built up so much to such a strong final moment that really paid off well.
Wow. Didn't see it.
Yeah, I didn't either.
I really want to now.
Yeah. I know, and I was really trying to weave through the stuff, but
yeah.
I mean, like I mentioned, like, nothing really stood out. No movies really stood out to me this year, but my God, this year, in terms of best actor performances, I mean, J.K. Simmons, Jake Gyllenhaal, Eddie Redmayne, any of those three could get the best actor win.
Kevin Sorbo.
I would be, oh God damn it.
Sorry.
Anyway, any three of those people could get the best actor, and I would be like, all right, yep, that was completely warranted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
I really liked Whiplash.
Nice.
Yeah, you're not alone. People really are loving this movie.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear what you guys think about it.
That's a drawback of doing these episodes, is that you can't see everything.
Yeah. Oh, God. Like, and I know, Mike, you and I both wanted to see Foxcatcher.
Oh, I can't wait.
Tiny,
to see
you did
Foxcatcher,
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a funny story about going to see Foxcatcher. Just really quickly, it was a week ago on a Sunday. I drove to Keystone Art on the north side, and I was trying to see Foxcatcher, but there was like no parking, and I was so frustrated. And like that was the one chance I had to see Foxcatcher before the new year, and I didn't get to see it. Was it last Sunday? Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So it was. I didn't get to see it.
It has not been around here. There's, I'm at the point where I'm willing to pay $20 for the DVD today, for a digital copy today, that I wanted to see it so bad.
Yeah, I have a feeling that would be in my top 10. Because, I wrestled for many years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm so excited about to see it, is that I don't know much of anything about it.
Yeah.
Except for it has something to do with wrestling, and Steve Carell is in it.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it.
Right.
Like Steve Carell, Channing Tatum, and Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. Are there any other movies in 2014 that you guys missed out on that you are hoping to circle back on?
This Is Where I Leave You is one I wanted to see. And you guys were talking about that one a lot. Men, Women, and Children I didn't really care to see all that much. I don't know. Whiplash, Foxcatcher, those were the big two. I'm looking through my list. Sorry. Tiny, what about you?
Yeah, Whiplash and American Sniper I wanted to see pretty bad. I don't know if that'd be a top 10 movie. I kind of doubt it, not to take anything away, but I hear Bradley Cooper's phenomenal in it.
Yeah. Oh, Selma?
Yeah, Selma.
I wanted to try to see that before this. I mean, I'll definitely see it before the Oscars, but,
I hear it's very controversial.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And The Imitation Game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really want to see that too.
I never watched The Zero Theorem either.
Oh yeah, me neither. Yeah.
Maybe I'll through the cracks.
Yeah, maybe I'll check it out. I don't think that had really that big of a release either.
No, it didn't.
I'll check that out now that I'm kind of going through a sci-fi phase.
Yep.
I'm trying to go through a sci-fi.
I'm going through a sci-fi phase. Like I have a whole list of movies, but anyway, the movies I missed in 2014 that I really want to make a priority in this early 2015 is The Imitation Game, Birdman, and Foxcatcher.
Mm-hmm.
I have others, but those are the three that I'm really looking forward to checking out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you guys want to talk about, just really, really quickly, kind of leave off on movies we're looking forward to in 2015? Any off the top of your head?
Jeez.
Star Wars.
Star Wars. Yeah.
You know what's funny is I have a whole list, and I didn't even put Star Wars on it.
Oh,
I mean,
why?
I didn't.
damn it, Maddie.
Yeah, I got nothing.
Of course, Avengers. Which does that kind of kick off the summer? Is that in like May?
It's in May, but I mean now summer's kind of relative. Like it's March, April-ish.
But is that I can't remember if that's the first big movie though.
I can't remember. I think it is. Yeah. Well, April is Furious 7.
Oh, is it?
Are you going to drag me to the theater to see that?
I won't make you go.
I think I'm actually going to do a franchise review on the site for it.
I have a girlfriend now. I'll drag her.
Ah, that's true.
That's why we have them.
Or Greg. He loves that franchise. Our friend Greg.
Oh, yeah.
From We Are Libertarians.
Yeah. Really quickly, the movies I'm looking forward to in 2015 are just in order of release date. Hot Tub Time Machine 2, Serena, which has my wife Jennifer Lawrence in it. I'm kind of nervous about it because I think it was supposed to come out Oscar season, kind of Monuments Men kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
But it got pushed back, so I don't have very high expectations. But the trailer looks really good. Avengers: Age of Ultron, Ex Machina. What's his name? Alex Garland's directorial debut. I love him from his writing from 28 Days Later and Sunshine.
Nice.
One of my favorite movies ever. Hopefully that's not a Wally Pfister Transcendence situation.
Yeah.
Everest, I don't know much about it. The Walk, Robert Zemeckis and Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Oh, yeah.
I saw a teaser for that yesterday.
It's such an effective teaser.
Yeah, it's really good.
Shaky. Looking forward to Vacation. I think that'll be fun.
Yeah.
Just because Ed Helms, I think, is a strong enough presence to kind of make it watchable, I guess. Spectre, the new Bond that I'm hoping to get my Bond 50 project finally finished. I stopped kind of halfway through the set.
Does that come out next year?
late next year.
Wow.
Oh yeah. And finally, The Martian. I got the book, The Martian, as a gift from Lauren from ObsessiveBookNerd.com. And I'm so excited to read it and then also check out the movie.
Cool.
Yeah. The book actually starts out the best opening line I've read in a book since, well, in a while. It starts out with, well, I'm pretty much because it's about a guy stranded on Mars.
Nice.
Yeah. So those are mine.
Good year.
Yeah. Any others you guys are looking forward to? Anything?
You pretty much named them.
Yeah.
Star Wars, man. The year of Star Wars.
Yeah. I'm looking for.
Have you felt it? The dark side and the light. Bum, ba-da-bum, ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. Sorry.
I'm so looking forward to just talking about it. No, this is going to be a long year.
For a year. Yeah, we're going to talk about it for a year.
Yeah. No, I think we can come up with some pretty fun Star Wars themed episodes later in the year. I think they'll be fun.
Definitely.
Yeah. And my girlfriend's never seen any of the original movies.
Really?
So I'm gonna force her to watch all 6.
Nice.
So that's gonna be fun over the next year.
Oh, I plan to watch all 6 before for the new one. Yeah. Yeah. So is that about it? Does that about cover everything?
Yeah.
That is everything.
Yeah.
It's a comprehensive look back at 2014.
It is, and man, we're getting kind of like this is kind of a thing now. Like, I mean,
I know,
because for those quick plug, check out Mike and I's Friends retrospective. It's a 3-hour retrospective on Friends. Yeah, I was pretty proud of that one.
Yeah, tune in next week for an episode we promise to be no longer than 56 minutes.
I would kind of welcome that because I still,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I listened to the Friends
we'll see.
episode, by the way.
Nice,
Liked it a lot.
nice.
Yeah.
We missed you.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, anyway, thanks for listening, guys. I hope you guys all had a good 2014 in movies. I will be on our friends at the Nerds You're Looking For podcast in the coming weeks for their 2014 in review episode. So check that out. And also thank you to everyone who supported us in 2014.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for listening.
Yeah, here's to
2015. Here we go.
2015, yes. Yeah. The year of Jar Jar. All right, see you guys later.
Ugh. Yes, my number 5 is. I kind of feel bad about it, but
Oh, I accidentally activated that, did I?
Is that you beeping?
It's Tiny's laptop.
Oh boy. That's really obnoxious.
It is. I was wondering why you did that. It's 4/8/15. It's on whatever it's called. It's
dashboard.
It's an app.
It's a Lost app.
Yeah.
Okay.
B-roll.
Take it from the top.
Yeah. Sorry. Thank you for downloading or streaming the latest episode of the Obsessive Viewer podcast. The music you heard at the top of the episode and right now is provided by Loudlike. Their EP, Mistakes We Must Make, features our theme song and a clips of events. You can find that on iTunes, and while you're there, please rate and review them and us, and let us know what you think. Also, like us on Facebook at facebook.com/TheObsessiveViewer. Follow us on Twitter at ObsessiveViewer, at ObsessiveTiny, and at IamMikeWhite. And also check out ObsessiveViewer.com for reviews of movies, TV shows, and industry commentary. Also, check out ObsessiveBookNerd.com for book reviews and commentary on the evolving world of reading. And also Tiny's side project podcast, The Secular Perspective, is a podcast exploring the concepts of faith, religion, and existence from the perspective of secular hosts. You can find that on iTunes, Stitcher, and at thesecularperspective.com. Finally, you can email us at Matt, Tiny, or Mike at ObsessiveViewer.com or email the podcast directly at podcast@ObsessiveViewer.com. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next week.